The spotlight hit Sammy at exactly 10:47 p.m., the Sands Hotel, Copa Room, Las Vegas, July 1963. 3,000 people in evening gowns and tuxedos, cigarettes glowing in the dark like fireflies. The Rat Pack was halfway through their midnight show. Frank had just finished My Way. Dean was at the bar doing his drunk routine, and now it was Sammy's turn. The moment everyone waited for. The moment when Sammy Davis Jr. took the stage and reminded the world why he was called the world's greatest entertainer. Except tonight, something was wrong. Sammy walked to center stage, his usual swagger slightly off, his smile a half-second delayed. The band kicked in, the opening notes of "I've Got You Under My Skin." Sammy opened his mouth to sing. Nothing came out. He tried again. Still nothing. The band kept playing. The audience waited. Frank and Dean exchanged glances from the wings. And Sammy Davis Jr., the man who never missed a beat, who never forgot a lyric, who could perform in his sleep, stood frozen under the spotlight, like a deer caught in headlights. His one good eye was wide. Terrified. He'd forgotten everything, every word, every note, every step. Complete and total blank. Stage fright. The performer's nightmare. Happening in real time in front of 3,000 people and half of Hollywood. The band vamped, waiting, hoping Sammy would recover. He didn't. 30 seconds of silence, which in show business might as well be 30 years. People in the audience started shifting, whispering, confused. Frank took a step toward the stage, but someone else got there first. Joey Bishop, the fifth member of the Rat Pack, the quiet one, the one people forgot about. Not as handsome as Frank, not as cool as Dean, not as talented as Sammy, not as connected as Peter. Just Joey, the comedian, the writer, the guy who made everyone else look good. Joey was standing in the wings, watching Sammy fall apart. And in that moment, Joey Bishop made a decision that would define his entire career. He walked onto the stage, didn't wait for his cue, didn't ask permission, just walked out into the spotlight like he belonged there. The audience was confused. This wasn't part of the show. Joey walked right up to Sammy, stood beside him, put his hand on Sammy's shoulder, and said, loud enough for the entire room to hear, "Ladies and gentlemen, I need to tell you something about Sammy Davis Jr." Sammy looked at him, panic in his eye. Joey continued, "This man right here is the most professional entertainer I have ever worked with. He shows up early. He rehearses longer than anyone. He never complains. He never makes excuses. He is, without question, a machine." The audience was listening now. The band had stopped playing. "But tonight," Joey said, "I did something terrible to this man. And I need to confess it publicly." He turned to Sammy. "Sammy, I am so sorry. I spiked your drink before the show." Gasps from the audience. Sammy's eye went wide for a different reason now. "That's right," Joey said, playing to the crowd now. "I put a little something extra in his ginger ale. Just to see what would happen. Just to see if the great Sammy Davis Jr. could be thrown off his game." He shook his head sadly. "And I'm ashamed to say, ladies and gentlemen, that I succeeded. For the first time in his entire career, Sammy Davis Jr. forgot his lyrics. Because I, Joey Bishop, sabotaged him." The audience laughed. Nervously at first. Then, genuinely. Because they understood what Joey was doing. He was giving Sammy an out. A reason for the freeze that didn't involve weakness, or failure, or fear. Joey turned back to the audience. "So here's what we're gonna do. We're gonna start this song over. We're gonna let Sammy shake off whatever poison I put in his system. And we're gonna watch the greatest comeback in Las Vegas history." He looked at Sammy. "What do you say, Sam? You ready to show these people what you can really do?" And in Sammy's eye, the panic faded, replaced by something else. Gratitude. Pure and total gratitude. Sammy nodded. Joey snapped his fingers at the band. "From the top, gentlemen," and this time, nobody spiked the drinks. The band started again, and Sammy Davis Jr., rescued from the worst moment of his professional life by a comedian nobody took seriously, opened his mouth and sang like an angel. The performance that followed was legendary. Not just good. Transcendent. Sammy sang "I've Got You Under My Skin" with an intensity that made people weep. He danced with a precision that defied physics. He joked with the audience, riffed with the band, commanded that stage like he'd been born on it. Which, in a way, he had. When he finished, the standing ovation lasted 4 minutes. Frank and Dean rushed onto the stage, grabbed Sammy, grabbed Joey. The 4 of them took a bow together. But backstage, after the show, away from the audience, something else happened. Sammy found Joey in his dressing room. Joey was sitting in front of the mirror, taking off his makeup, trying to look casual, like he hadn't just saved the entire show. "Joey," Joey looked up. "Yeah, Sam, what you did out there." "Forget it," Joey said quickly. "It was nothing." "It wasn't nothing," Sammy said quietly. "It was everything." He sat down in the chair next to Joey. "I froze, Joey. I completely froze. I've never frozen in my life, 30 years performing, and I've never forgotten a lyric, never missed a step. And tonight, in front of 3,000 people, my mind just went blank." His voice was shaking now. "I was terrified. I thought my career was over. I thought I was done. And then you walked out there and you saved me." "I just made a joke, Sam." "You didn't just make a joke," Sammy said. "You gave them a reason to forgive me. You turned my failure into your bid. You made yourself the villain so I could still be the hero." Joey was quiet. "You would have done the same for me," he said finally. "Maybe," Sammy admitted. "But you didn't wait to find out. You just did it, without thinking, without hesitating." He stood up, walked to the door, turned back. "I won't forget this, Joey. Ever." But here's what Sammy didn't know. Joey hadn't acted without thinking. He'd acted because he knew exactly what Sammy was going through. Because Joey Bishop had his own secret. Stage fright. Crippling, paralyzing stage fright that he fought every single night. Joey wasn't naturally funny the way Dean was naturally charming or Frank was naturally magnetic. Joey had to work for every laugh, had to write every joke, had to rehearse every bit until it was perfect. And even then, some nights, right before he went on stage, Joey would stand in the wings and shake. His hands would tremble. His stomach would twist. His mind would scream at him to run. But he never did. He walked out there anyway, because that's what professionals do. And when Joey saw Sammy freeze, he didn't see weakness. He saw himself. He saw every performer who'd ever stood under a spotlight and felt the terror of being exposed, of being vulnerable, of being one forgotten word away from humiliation, and he knew he had to help. Not because Sammy was his friend, but because Sammy was his brother. And brothers don't let brothers fall alone. Frank Sinatra found out what happened. Not from Joey, not from Sammy, from a stagehand who'd been in the wings. The next night, before the show, Frank pulled Joey aside. "I heard what you did last night," Joey shrugged. "It was nothing." "Stop saying that," Frank said. "It wasn't nothing. It was the most professional thing I've ever seen." He looked Joey in the eye. "Sammy was dying out there. And you walked into the fire and pulled him out. You sacrificed your own set time. You made yourself look like a jerk. You gave up your moment to save his." He would have done. No. Frank interrupted. He wouldn't have. None of us would have. We would have stood there like idiots watching him suffer. But you? You acted. Immediately. Frank put his hand on Joey's shoulder. From now on, you're not the fifth member of this group. You're the first. Because you just showed us what this whole thing is supposed to be about. What's that? Taking care of each other, Frank said. Not just when it's easy. When it's hard. The story of that night spread through Las Vegas like wildfire. Not through the press. Not through the gossip columns. Through the entertainers themselves. Singers, dancers, comedians, musicians. Everyone heard about what Joey Bishop had done. And the next time Joey performed, something changed. The other performers showed up to watch. Not because Joey was the funniest. Not because Joey was the most talented. Because Joey was the one who understood. Who knew what it felt like to be terrified. And who'd proved that when your brother falls, you don't stand and watch. You walk into the spotlight and you fall with him. Or better yet, you catch him before he hits the ground. In 1967, Joey Bishop got his own television show, The Joey Bishop Show. Late night. Competing with Johnny Carson, it lasted 2 years. Decent ratings. Good reviews. But it never quite caught fire. When it was canceled, reporters asked Joey if he was disappointed. Disappointed, Joey said. Why would I be disappointed? I got to do what I love for 2 years. That's not failure, that's success. But privately, to friends, Joey admitted the truth. I'm not like Frank or Dean or Sammy. I don't have that magic. That thing that makes people unable to look away. I'm just a working comedian who got very lucky. Sammy heard about this. And he showed up at Joey's house unannounced. You're wrong, Sammy said. You do have magic. Sam, you saved my career, Joey. That night in '63. You didn't just save the show, you saved me. Because if I'd failed that night, if I'd walked off that stage in shame, I don't know if I could have come back from it. He grabbed Joey's shoulders. So don't you dare say you don't have magic. You have the most important magic there is. The magic of loyalty, of quick thinking, of selflessness. Joey's eyes were wet. I just did what anyone would have done. No, Sammy said firmly. You did what almost no one would have done. You sacrificed yourself for someone else. Without hesitation. Without expecting anything in return. He hugged Joey. That's not luck, brother. That's character. Joey Bishop died in 2007. He was 89 years old. The last surviving member of the original Rat Pack. Frank gone. Dean gone. Sammy gone. Peter gone. Just Joey. The quiet one. The forgotten one. Outliving them all. At his funeral, they played a recording. Not of Joey's comedy, not of his television show. A recording from that night in 1963. Joey's voice, clear and strong. Ladies and gentlemen, I need to tell you something about Sammy Davis Jr. And then Sammy's voice, singing I've Got You Under My Skin, like his life depended on it. Which, in a way, it had. The story of that night in July 1963 is not about stage fright. It's about what happens when someone you barely notice becomes the most important person in the room. Joey Bishop was never the star. He was the guy who made the stars look good. But on that night, for 2 minutes and 37 seconds, Joey Bishop was the only star that mattered, because he understood something that fame can make you forget. That entertainment isn't about being the best. It's about being there, being present, being willing to walk into the fire when your brother is burning. Somewhere in the Nevada desert, in a showroom that no longer exists, a man froze. And another man unfroze him, not with talent, Not with charisma, with loyalty, with quick thinking, with the kind of love that doesn't ask, "What's in it for me?" but only, "What does my brother need?" Joey Bishop saved Sammy Davis Jr. that night. But more than that, he saved the idea of what the Rat Pack really was. Not 5 guys trying to outshine each other, but 5 brothers catching each other when they fall. And sometimes, the smallest brother has the strongest arms.